I think one of the greatest obstacles for us sustaining those right relationships with other people, the greatest obstacle for us having those right relationships just so happens to be our need to be right. That's the greatest obstacle. The greatest obstacle for sustaining right relationships is our need to be right. We always want to be right. We can't be wrong. In fact, you probably experienced this before. You get into an argument, right? And you've dug your heels so far into the ground to make your point, to make your case. And 30 minutes later, you have no idea what you're fighting about, but you're dug in, right? And at that point, 30 minutes into the argument, you can't give in because that would mean that you're admitting that you're wrong. And who can do that? You can't do that. And so you just dig in even more. We've all had stories like that, probably recently, where you got into a conflict, where you got into an argument, and maybe it was like on the way to church, just saying. Maybe sometimes that happens with spouses and kids, and maybe it's with a parent, maybe it's with a spouse or a coworker or a teammate. We get into these conflicts, and you know what's so interesting? In the moment, you were right, weren't you? And yet, in the moment, they were right. They thought. Does that conversation ever end well? No. At any point during the conversation, 30 minutes into it, where both of you are like dug your heels down into the dirt and no one's moving, at any point does someone say, oh, wait. I see it so clearly. I was wrong. You were right. I see it so clearly now that you're always right. Does that ever, because if that ever happens to you, could you like raise your hand and we'll talk to you after the service? Okay, see Daniel afterwards maybe. No. Okay, so that never happens, does it? No. Sarcasm doesn't count either. So, but here's what we need to remember. In those moments when you're right and they're right, and your heels are dug in and their heels are dug in, here's what you need to remember. And you need to ask yourself this question. Do you value the relationship more than you value being right? Because to be a peacemaker means this. It means you value that relationship more than you value your need to be right.